Well, this kind of got started on a chat last night with over at Dangerous Freedom, and they were talking about the Patriots need more training and all this other stuff to do things. The main thing is, people, why the people aren't standing up is because they have been conditioned to laws. They don't want to break the law themselves and go to jail. But the left doesn't care about laws, so they go ahead and break the laws. The cities let them do this. Thus, they're giving up their jurisdiction about keeping the peace, and it's up to the people to keep the peace. Don't listen to these doggone people. Oh, you have the right to do this. Well, you have more rights than what you know. Now, this people is a preamble to the Constitution. It was in the city of New York, the 4th of March, 1789. The convention of a number of states. I'm going to zoom this in. I want everybody to see this. The convention of a number of states, having at the time of adopting the Constitution, expressed a desire in order to prevent misconstruction or abuse of its powers, that further declaratory and restrictive clauses should be added. And as extending the ground of public confidence in the government, this will best ensure the benefits and of the institution. So anyway, they put in the Bill of Rights, all 10 of them. Now, if you look at the Bill of Rights, the Second Amendment. Give me a second here, people. A well-regulated militia, being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Now you look up here where it says to prevent misconstruction or abuses of its power. They're talking about Congress. So they added these restrictive clauses so that they couldn't screw around with them. And it says, the Second Amendment, the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Well, I'm sorry, but the Congress has never had the power or authority to pass any firearm laws. In case you don't know that. They are not allowed to infringe on that. They are constitutionally barred from infringing upon your rights. Now you see these people, they're causing riots and protesting and throwing gasoline bombs and arson, the whole thing, and nothing getting done. Well, the one thing I didn't like was the people on the chat were saying, oh, these guys are felons, they're not allowed to have guns. Whoa, buckwheat, back up. That's not what the Constitution says. If these people went to prison and they got out of prison, they're allowed to have a firearm to protect themselves. Because you know and I know the police are not obligated to protect you. You have to protect yourself. If these people are good enough to be left out of prison, they're good enough to vote, and they're good enough to have a firearm. They have the same rights as you do. Whether you think so or not, they do. The Constitution grants them that. You ever watch the movie Silverado? As soon as that guy got out of prison, they handed his guns back, he went on his way, and he was able to protect himself. That's what the Constitution's all about. Now, if somebody goes and they takes a firearm and they, go to rob somebody, and they don't need a firearm anymore. They need to be shot, hung, electrocuted, whatever you want to call it. But don't get misinformed, but that's the problem out there. Everybody's afraid they're going to go to jail. When the police give up their jurisdiction about keeping the peace, it's up to you. Now, I've said before, and I'll say it again because I don't want everybody to... The Second Amendment to our federal Constitution recognizes that the God-given right to keep and bear arms is to be free from any interference whatsoever from the federal government. Also, accordingly, the federal government is nowhere in the Constitution granted the authority to abridge, restrict, or infringe in any fashion whatsoever guns or ammunition. Thus, all restrictive laws made by Congress and the regulations by the Bureau of ATF our unconstitutional is outside the scope of powers granted to Congress and to the executive branch of our Constitution. Restriction of arms and ammunition is not one of the enumerated powers granted or delegated to Congress or to the executive branch. And people will say, well, oh, no, the Interstate Commerce Clause, that gives them power. They have no power outside of what they were granted. The interstate thing was only, if you look at Federalist Number 22 and 42, it says, the primary purpose of the clause was to prohibit the states from imposing taxes and tolls on merchandise that was transported to the states for the purpose of buying and selling. And people, oh, well, what about the general welfare? No, it has nothing to do with handouts, public relief, or feds doing whatever they think is a good idea. All welfare is exemption from any unusual evil or calamity, the enjoyment of peace and prosperity, or the ordinary blessings of society and civil government applies to the states. Well, people say, okay, what about the necessary and proper clause? They can only do what's necessary and proper within the boundaries of the enumerated powers. The clause permits the execution of powers already delegated and enumerated in the Constitution. No additional substantial powers are granted by this clause. I'm trying to pull all this stuff over your eyes. You know, the U.S. Constitution is the supreme law of the land, and for any statute to be valued must be in agreement, because it's impossible for a law which violates the Constitution to be valid. Now, if you look at a lot of these laws, like I said, the thing about the felons not allowed to have guns, that's crap. I'll tell you how they twist the laws. They passed that domestic violence law years ago, in the 90s, I think it was. They said everybody that's ever had this on their record, all the way back to Adam and Eve, can no longer have firearms. Well, that's ex post facto law. Ex post facto law is something that you can't pass a law after the fact and then charge you for it or make you jump through hoops. No. Like I said, all these restrictive laws made by Congress, all of them, from 1934 on, they're null and void. They're outside the scope of powers granted to Congress. An unconstitutional act is not a law. It confers no rights, it imposes no duties, affords no protections, it creates no office, and it is in legal contemplation as inoperable as though it had never been passed. You know, they have the color of law, but they have no substance to it. All laws which are repugnant to the Constitution are null and void. Period. Now, if we had some people that were really honorable, and I won't count Congress or the Supreme Court as being honorable, this stuff wouldn't be going on. But they keep giving the Congress and the Supreme Court keep giving more power to the Congress. That's against the law. You can't do that. This thing called interstate commerce. No. That's not in the Constitution. Only commerce. But they thought they could get away with it. They got the doggone Supreme Court to back them up. Oh, yeah, that's the way we see it. That's not how it was written. So therefore, it's null and void. All these laws made by Congress are null and void concerning firearms. All these background checks, jumping through hoops to get this and go do that. Oh, you got to sign for this, you got to sign for that. Bullcrap. That's not what the Constitution says, and it's time we get back to the American way of life, the way it was, the way it should be, the way you can make it. But don't don't sit back on your butt and not do something. Know the Constitution. Read the Constitution. That's what it's there for. If you don't know what your rights are, you don't have any. You understand that? This is the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. Now, how did things get so screwed up? Well, back in the 1870s there, after the Civil War, they decided they they started this Darwin thing, and oh yeah, we got to embrace this. This is the way we got here. We come from the sea. We're fish, and now we're humans already. Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. It's crap, people. It's crap. So anyway, they started this stuff with. They got it to the point that judges became the law. They didn't look at things. They didn't do the Constitution. They didn't study the Constitution. They started reading what other judges said about the Constitution, thus making that judge the law and not the Constitution. Look at all these people in Congress. Look at the people in the Supreme Court. Did they study the Constitution, the Federalist Papers? Did they read the Declaration of Independence? Did they study this stuff? Or did they just study with the writings of other judges and making that judge the law and not the Constitution? That's where it's at. If you look at the Second Amendment of the Constitution, it says, "The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed." There is no subparagraph A, B, C, or D after that would stipulate what an acceptable infringement would be. Therefore, there are none. Like I said, Congress is constitutionally barred from infringing upon your rights. That's why they want to get rid of that. Do not let them have a constitutional con where they get in there and they strip all your rights away. That piece of paper is the most important thing that this country has ever done, and you better protect it. Thanks for listening.